This is another Black Girl Podcast. Black girl. We're doing our best to make it last. This is another Black Girl Podcast. We're doing our best to make it last. Another Black Girl Podcast. Yes, welcome back to the... Hold up. Is this the 12th episode? Hold on, let me check, y'all. Because... No. This is the 13th? Oh my god. So... False news. Fake news. This is actually the 13th episode of another Black Girl Podcast. Round of applause for us. Not me, but us making it this far. Thank you for tuning in. As always, thank you for your presence and your support of this podcast and of me, another Black girl, also known as Lori, Lauren, Laura, Renee, or whatever the nearest Starbucks barista is feeling like, I guess. So, our last episode was about, first of all, it was about the debate between Kamala Harris and Pence. Don't nobody want to talk about him. But more specifically, the episode was about the way Senator Harris reiterated the fact that she was speaking like Black women and women in general have to do in this patriarchal society and world. Because like James Brown said, it's a man's world. So if you haven't heard that episode, you should check it out. The affirmation from that episode had to do with gratefulness regarding your voice, not just the actual sound, your audible voice, but your voice meaning your stances, your opinions, and what you put into the world, essentially. And like, the debate is over. Hopefully. Kamala the cop and old man Biden will be next in office. Regretfully and hopefully, whatever. And I wanted to move on to another affirmation, but after that debate, this week we have seen the other side of how to use your voice. And again, I am so sorry if you are not from America, but if I wasn't from America, this would be genuinely interesting. These past 4 years, like I always say, have been ghetto in the U.S. And I wish I was from another country right about now, because I'd be like, oh girl, you saw what happened over there? Come over and bring some wine and we could talk about it. It would be like watching Real Housewives. Any of them. No, you know what? It would be like watching all of the Real Housewives at the same time. Because that's how much is happening. It's a lot. So, I tried to move on because the last episode that aired this time last week, that was repetitive, but the episode that aired last week spoke about using your voice in a positive way, and all of this nice and good stuff, and I just couldn't get away from what we've seen in terms of the SCOTUS, which is the nickname and acronym for the Supreme Court of the United States nominee. Man, listen. I don't want to say I didn't trust her, but from the moment she stepped on that stage in the Rose Garden with Trump, who wasn't wearing a mask, I was like, child, I don't trust her. I don't know her, never seen her, never heard of her, but I don't like her. Don't trust her. And yes, I get a bit judgmental. We all can. But anybody who proudly stands next to I don't want to say his name. Anybody who proudly stands next to the current president must be in some kind of funny, shady, shisty foolishness. I'll say foolishness. So from the moment she stepped on that stage, I was like, you know what? I don't trust her. And I guess I'll stay tuned to find out why, because honestly, everyone who proudly stands next to the current president. Not the office, but the man. Because they are different. Anybody that proudly stands next to that man got a whole lot of something wrong in their head. And that's just it. So this week was the SCOTUS confirmation hearing for Amy something. Child, let me Google it because I don't really care. Listen, sometimes when you know things are going to trouble you, you can't even let it in your system. Feel me? Like, don't Google their name. Don't go on their Instagram to see their new girlfriend. You know what I'm talking about. Don't go scrolling in your old text messages because you know you can't take it. So, her actual name is Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett? Child, whatever. Her name is Karen to me. So, this past week have been the confirmation hearings. So basically, the confirmation hearings take place right before the vote to confirm her. Basically, the confirmation hearings are basically where people just come up and ask this almost elected president chosen judge a bunch of questions, simply put, I guess. Yeah. So they asked her some questions, and I was on TikTok. Yes, I know. To my older crowd, TikTok is worse than Wikipedia. But I was on TikTok, and I saw this clip. And somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody asked her what the 5 rights granted in the First Amendment were. Yes, First Amendment is free speech. And somebody duetted it in the video and was like using her voice to like kind of make fun of her, I guess. But the point of that TikTok was to say that when said person who created the TikTok was in civics class, that was the first lesson. And Karen couldn't even remember all 5. I believe it was the right to protest, the right to assemble, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. Shade. But she couldn't even remember all 5. I think she left out the right to protest. How ironic is that? I mean, like, come on, the jokes write themselves at this point, just like when the fly came and sat on Pence, when she was wearing some kind of fuchsia outfit, get up, whatever, a fly came and sat on her, and now she cannot remember that Americans have the right to protest. Why, I ask? Child, we know the answer. Because a lot of people be protesting against the beliefs she has and the things that she stands for and is standing on to get her into the Supreme Court. Oh, and mind you, if she gets into the Supreme Court, there's no leaving. The Supreme Court is for life. I don't know why that is still a thing. I don't know why that still exists. Why does anybody need to be on anything for life? And, I mean, over the course of my life, I can't speak for the SCOTUS or the Supreme Court of the United States, but over the course of my life, I have changed my opinions as many times as I have changed my underwear. Like, I have changed. My body has changed. My face has changed. You know, the way I move through the world has changed. So, if I've changed, hopefully they do change as well as they continue to gather information and see cases in which there are exceptions to every rule. Hopefully, they are not as pliable as steel. Hopefully, they allow life to beneficially change them. And I mean, if people do change, which I believe they do, I don't know about the SCOTUS, but I believe people change. And as people change in a country that says we have a democracy and freedom and liberty and justice for all, it's only fair to have nominations for the SCOTUS seats every, I want to say 2 years, to be honest. Because anything more is too much. And if it's 4 years, it might conflict with, I don't know, maybe a presidential election. But, who cares about that unless it's Obama? So I don't understand why the SCOTUS is for life. But you know what? Let me just shut my Bachelor of Fine Arts behind down and be quiet. Because, what do the American people know? So anyways, Karen has gone through these hearings, and child, it has been a mess. A whole mess. So, first of all, I just want to go back to that TikTok. I saw that TikTok, and then I actually, Googled the YouTube the video, and turns out that actually did happen. Because I know somebody's probably going to listen to me like, oh, it's fake news. No, it happened. The first lesson of civics, allegedly. Amy Coney Barrett, the person who was elected to take a SCOTUS seat for life, can't remember the things taught in literally the first lesson of civics. But again, let me set my BFA behind down. So, Amy Coney Barrett, that's a lot. ACB, aka Karen, she, in preparation for this hearing, if I was coming, I would have brought folders, documents, pie charts, graphs, done something. She looked like, from the neck up, she looked like she got cute for a Target run, but you know what? That's not my business. So, she didn't even take notes during the hearing. And on multiple occasions, she was outed on Twitter. Somebody in journalism or the media or whatever took a picture from above, and her notepad was empty. Child, it was empty. Completely empty, except the header or the letterhead on the paper. It was the header on the actual paper. The way it was printed was the only thing printed on the paper. Ain't that sad? So, moving on. ABC, ACB, Karen went on to say that basically she is a constitutionalist, I believe. Granted, that is an actual thing. But why couldn't she just say, I'm a fundamentalist when it comes to the Constitution? Isn't that less words, child? But whatever. Homegirl is a constitutionalist, meaning that she loves the Constitution so much. And she believes, like the SCOTUS, that it should not change and it should be held to the same standard in which it was created when Black people didn't even exist as 100% of a person. But you know what? Whatever. We're going to talk about it sis, the Constitution. Since its formation, I'm sorry, hasn't it been amended a few times? So for you to advocate for a document that isn't even the document anymore? Sis, it don't make sense. It really doesn't. So, just like every other important document, it should be a living document, meaning that it's still subject to change. Just like America should be. Just like our government should be. Just like the police force should be. Just like minimum wage should be. so many things that should be changing, but ain't. So she's here for the good old days. She's here. Anyway, so a lot of people after these hearings and during these hearings were absolutely horrified because she's a fundamentalist. And first of all, she spoke of her white kids as like witty and funny and great. And then she spoke of her black kids like they're strong, they can lift everything. Like, of course, I'm paraphrasing. And if you want the receipts, I can pull them for you, but I'm not going to even do that right now because I know what I could take and I'm not about to take that. But she's problematic on so many different levels. And one reoccurring joke that I've seen about ACB was that if she gets in, it's about to be an episode of Handmaiden's Tale, whatever. The point being, seriously, is that if this woman actually does make and attain that SCOTUS seat, she will be undoing a lot of the work that has been done over these past few years. I say few, but they are actually many. She's going to be undoing a lot of the work that has been done in our lifetime. So just think about that, first of all. I'm sorry, and before we continue, it wasn't a constitutionalist. I think it was an originalist. Previously, I said she was a constitutionalist. I'm pretty sure it's an originalist. But also, it is also important to notice that when Obama was in office, there was a man named Merrick Garland who could have been a part of the Supreme Court of the United States during the Obama administration, but the Republican side of our government said no. They said no under the guise that they believed that Supreme Court justices shouldn't be nominated and confirmed in court during and right before an election. Child, all I want to know is where's that same energy? Like, sis, it's an election year. Come on. Same rules still apply. You can't play the game if you keep changing the rules, feel me? Thank you for staying tuned. This is Another Black Girl podcast. Before I move on, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Anchor, which is the forum I use to publish and share my podcast, Another Black Girl podcast, with you. It is absolutely free, and there are creation tools that allow me to record and re-record and re-record and edit my podcast from my phone and or my computer. It distributes my podcast so I can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, I think it is, and a whole lot of other platforms. I can make money from my podcast with no minimum listenership because of the ads. Anchor also finds the ads for you, honorable mention, and it's basically everything you need in a podcast. So it gives you some transition music and some pretty cool features, some data, some analytics, some cool looking charts. And yeah, it's a great forum to publish your podcast on. So if you wish to start one, go to anchor.fm to get started. I'm sorry you had to endure my political spiel. I hate to admit it, but this might take place a little more often leading up to this election. But if you want to hear all of the political shade and learn some new things along the way, make sure to follow my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Instagram is @AnotherBGI, Twitter is @AnotherBGT, and Facebook is @AnotherBGF. And it is the easiest to follow on my Instagram @AnotherBGI, but I do have an ongoing series where I choose a word a day, and it's a series called Words You Might Hear Leading Up to the Election. So I go through words and explain the history of them, explain why they're important, and how they contribute to our current American government and the election. And it's been super educational for me, and I'm the one making these freaking posts. And it's like, in American government, there's a lot that I still don't know. And that's coming from a girl who was in APUSH in high school, AP Gov, all of the things. And even if you learn the textbook definition for things, it's different when you see those textbook definitions implemented in your life and in the lives of others. So it's important. Anyways, I was going to talk about how not to use your voice, because last week's episode was about how to use your voice. So, some quick things. First of all, don't be... You know what? God is real, because I was about to say something. First of all, don't be a jerk. Second of all, if you're about to say something very important, slow down. Granted, you can tell by listening to this podcast that I can speak very quickly when I am excited. But when it matters most, pause, take a minute, the way I also do on this podcast, and just consider what you're saying. Choose your words more carefully when it matters. Especially when you're speaking to those you love. But you shouldn't only be cognizant of what you say to people that you love. Additionally, allow your voice to grow and to change. Again, not just your audible voice, but your stances, your beliefs, your ideals. Allow them to grow and change as you also do. We are ever moving, we are ever changing. Don't keep the same voice just because it's cool, or because it's what your family does, or because you think it's hip. As you and your political beliefs do change, it's important that your voice changes. It's important that you advocate for beneficial change wherever you are. And as your voice continues to change, don't use it to oppress other people, unless the ones that are in question or the ones that you're oppressing are being oppressed because they have been oppressing. Some people just need to get called out, but that's a whole different point. So, it is important to be more cognizant of what you say. And it's been difficult for me because, just like I said, I can be a little bit judgmental or whatever, but it's important because you don't recognize a lot of the things that you say. I mean, even when I'll drop a pencil or drop a bag of groceries or something falls out of a bag, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. No, we shouldn't be saying these things. So this week, pay a little bit more attention to the things that you say. Specifically, those things that need to change. The self-degradation, maybe. All of the angry and malicious statements that you make. All of the degrading things that you say to those around you who you should be lifting up. Those kinds of things. And I mean, if you know me, IRL, my mouth can be quick and my tongue can be sharp. And I mean, if you're not going to listen to anybody else who says the same thing that I'm saying to you right now, take it from somebody who has cut people with her words. Take it from someone who has cut people down and made them feel like nothing before. And I'm not saying that to brag, I'm saying this out of regret. Because sometimes I am quick to anger. And sometimes some of the people that I snap on don't deserve it. And take it from me, it's less of a mess to clean up if you just remain cognizant from jump. Especially in those moments where you want to two-piece somebody. Especially in those moments where you're angry and you see red, Especially in those moments. So if they arise this week, try to be aware of it. And if you slip up, maybe apologize. If you slip up, you're going to have to clean up the mess. most of the time. But if you slip up, I guarantee you that the opportunity will present itself again, and you will be tested in the same way, again and again and again and again. Even after you pass the test, you will continue to be tested because people will always try you, and that's on period. But it's important to try. So let's use our voices beneficially and not be like that Karen who actually might make it into the Supreme Court of the United States. Let's advocate for equality and freedom for all people, not just people that look like us or live like us. Let's keep that in mind and let's spread love this week because God knows we need it. We definitely all need it. That wasn't even an affirmation, but it was a fake affirmation. So I'm going to take that with me and hopefully you do too. So as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your presence here. Thanks for coming to talk with me for a couple minutes every week. If you want to stay tuned, if you want to follow my words you'll hear leading up to the election series, you can follow me on Instagram at AnotherBGI, on Twitter at AnotherBGT, and Facebook at AnotherBGF. You can also find me on www.anotherbg.com. And if you love this podcast so much, I would appreciate it if you started to like, comment, and leave some reviews. You can go on my website and actually give me feedback on whatever you want to give me feedback on. I would love to hear your thoughts and whatever questions and just general feedback you have to offer. It can be anything from the theme song to my Instagram aesthetic and analytics. Also, if you love this podcast so much and the affirmations specifically from this podcast, you can go to www.anotherbg.com. You can go to anotherbg.com and hit the shop section and purchase my 39-page Deca Affirmations Workbook, Volume 1, in which the affirmations from the first 10 episodes can be found. And it is a workbook because we speak about some things that are super personal, things that require some work and attention. And what better of a time to do this than in a pandemic where we should be staying inside. Anyways, I love you if you do, love you if you don't, but I would greatly appreciate if you purchase the ebook, read it, and give me some feedback because I want every single one to get better, not just for myself, but also for you, because I appreciate you, and I'm so glad that you're here. Anyways, I hope you are having a great week, a great end to a week, and I hope that you have a successful, healthy, productive, and safe upcoming week. As always, I'm your host, Laura Renee, or whatever my Starbucks barista person wants to call me that day, I guess. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to speaking with you again this time next week. Bye, y'all. This is another Black Girl Podcast. Black Girls. We're doing our best to make it last. Another Black Girl Podcast.